Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and good morning or good afternoon to you all, wherever you may be listening from today. My name is Paula White, and I am the Senior Manager of Membership Growth for AAPA. Welcome to today's webinar, Next Generation Technologies, Supply Chain Digitization and Green Solutions, hosted by one of AAPA's newer members, Wabtec. Welcome to AAPA's first member-hosted webinar of 2023. We have many excited programs planned for this year, so if you're keen to learn about additional opportunities to connect and learn throughout the year, please hang around for just a few minutes following the conclusion of the presentation, as I will be happy to share with you some additional ways that you can engage, learn, and network over the next several months through AAPA. Since meeting in person was initially difficult through COVID, AAPA added a new benefit for our new members to allow them to host a webinar to present themselves to the members and showcase their expertise in thought leadership. So we are really excited to hear what the experts at Wabtec have to share with us today. If you are listening today and you are not a member and would like an opportunity to present a webinar as a member, as well as other opportunities to get in front of and build relationships with our port members and other supply chain members, I will be sharing my contact information at the end of this presentation, and I will be happy to speak with you. We will be happy to take your questions at the end of the presentation, so feel free to post your questions in the question box as you think of them, or when we get to the end and in the Q&A section. Now we'll go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and turn it over to our first presenter, Sufyan Mefta. Sufyan, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Paula. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. We want to thank you again for taking the time to join us today. My team and I are super humbled to be here today. We are excited to share with you and this curious audience what we have been up to for the last 154 years. And more importantly, we want to share with you some electrifying ideas, solutions, and developments that can better the global supply chain for the next 154 years. So Paula and team, we have a full agenda today. Without further ado, let's get to it. We have designed our interaction today in a way that would break down the content into two portions today. We will start with addressing equipment and hardware, such as electrified rail vehicles, onshore power, and smart charging solutions. Then we will gradually transition into the digitized world, where we talk about terminal operating systems, rail connect transportation management systems, port optimizer. This way we will get to complement the physical assets that are presented today. Leading this webinar, we are in good hands with our speakers and subject matter experts. We have Todd, Molly, Greg, Byron, Andrew. Each presenter will give a quick introduction of themselves before they present. And today, my name is Sufyan Mefta. I am the pre-sale solution architect. I've been with Wabtec and GE Transportation for about 23 years, and I have served different areas within the business, from the rail operations, commercial operations, and digital intelligence. Before we dive into these solutions today, please allow me a few words about Wabtec so we can put this presentation into context. Now, those of you who have not heard of Wabtec before or cannot spell Wabtec, it's okay, we won't hold that against you. We're here for that today. The name stands for Westinghouse Airbrake Technology Corporation. It's a 154-year-old business that started as a key provider of air brake components for rail applications, transit cars, and freight cars. Quickly became a major OEM player in the freight and the transit industry. Since its inception in the 1800s, Wabtec grew organically and inorganically through major transactions, acquisitions, and mergers, two of which are worth mentioning today. The very first one in 2016 where Wabtec acquired Faiveley Transport. This is a leader based in a small town, Saint-Pierre-des-Corps, south of Paris in France. Faiveley brought us a great amount of energy, in addition to significant expertise and market share in transit and freight. And in 2019, Wabtec were merged with GE Transportation Systems. And together, Wabtec became an important player of equipment and digital solution in freight, transit, mining, and marine industries. The company employs 25,000 employees and operates in 50 countries globally. Today, the headquarters for Wabtec is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with major offices in Chicago and throughout North America, and also offices in the rest of the continents of the globe. Wabtec's mission is to revolutionize the way the world moves for future generations. So how do we do that? That's what gets us to the very first solution that we want to share with you today. It is the battery electric locomotive, also known as the Flex Drive. This is the company's roadmap to net zero emission and decarbonization of freight and transit operation. Flex Drive is a heavy haul, 100% battery electric locomotive with the vision to clean and be a greener and flexible propulsion system. With a freight demand that's expected to double by 2050, the need to dramatically reduce the carbon emissions across the globe becomes urgent and imperative. So the goal of the Flex Drive is to provide efficiency over longer distance while minimizing, eventually neutralizing the environmental impacts of the transportation. Flex Drive journey started in 2001 with the introduction of Wabtec's first battery hybrid locomotive at the time, utilizing dynamic braking technology and building on many, many decades of manufacturing 10,000s of diesel electric locomotives. So the really move from diesel electric to fully electric seems like a natural move. And in addition to battery electric technology, Wabtec is investing in other emission reduction technologies such as hydrogen fuel cell and biodiesel. Let's talk about the very first generation of Flex Drive, also known as Flex Drive 1.0. This is the first generation heavy haul battery electric locomotive. It was tested in revenue service with Class 1 Railway BNSF and CARB, California Air Resources Board. The locomotive completed over 13,000 miles, over 36 missions, saving about 11% of fuel, 6,200 gallons to be exact. The locomotive is able to operate in a consist of a locomotive. So this is not a single operated locomotive. And it's managed by Wabtec Cruise Control System, also known as Trip Optimizer. And Trip Optimizer warrants its own presentation someday. Basically, Trip Optimizer within the Flex Drive, it operates the throttle and the braking utilizing real-time train load and terrain data to optimize battery usage and maximize regenerative charging power. When we talk about the Flex Drive mainline locomotive, the success paved the way to the Flex Drive 2.0. This is another commercial battery electric locomotive that is able to deliver up to 8.5 megawatt hours of battery capacity with haulage capability of its diesel electric cousin locomotive. The Flex Drive 2.0 is also designed to replace a diesel electric locomotive within a train consist. Wabtec builds on its service-proven locomotive architecture with a new design of a liquid-cooled battery technology and thermal management system to optimize the energy performance and the battery life. When we talk about various applications of battery electric locomotive, Flex Drive expands on other rail applications. That includes freight medium haul, yard and switching operations, which could include marine, ports, and terminals. And finally, we're deploying similar technology for passenger and transit applications. Flex switch is very relevant to today's conversation because in the recent years, we are seeing a major push for ports and terminals to reach net zero by 2030 and beyond. For example, last year, Wabtec partnered with the Port of Miami in AAPA Latino in Santos to convey the very exact message. Andy and Eric, if you're there, I want to say hello and thank you. We're seeing other trends and similar trends in Canada and across the globe. For example, the expansion of the Port of Montreal in Contrecoeur expansion with an ambition and a mission to have a fossil-free port operation. So a few words on this LiDAR application. It's a diesel-electric switcher replacement with an AC traction systems up to 32 tons per axle. Depending on the application, you may get a Bobo or Coco configuration with 4 to 6 axle with a single axle control depending on the curve and the restrictions that you have in the vicinity of your port. This is a 2.4 to 4 megawatt hour battery with most applications that will need only one charge per day, about 1.5 megawatt hours in 20 hours, and gives you ample time to recharge in the 40 hours to 90% capacity. When we talk about flex drive and flex switch, these are locomotives that feature DC fast charging systems, utilizing stationary pantograph or even a plug-in option that includes a moving charge capability for increased range and a non-interrupted operation. The battery system arrangement is modular and scalable and designed to really integrate across multiple rail applications and vehicles to be able to provide some flexibility on in the field. Let's talk about adoption. And when we talk about market adoption of flex drive, I think it's really fair to say it takes a village. This is a major shift in technology. It's impacting how transportation system operates and uses energy sources for its prime movers. That's why Wabtec is partnering with strategic suppliers to push flex drive performance further and faster. We are partnering today with public and private entities through grants and other funding opportunities to accelerate the development of battery electric technologies. We are pleased today to announce that we have customers worldwide that are ready to integrate the flex drive into their mission and critical operation. Post the deployment of flex drive 1.0 and 2.0, customers are slowly dipping their toes in the technology from across the globe. We're seeing customers such as Rio Tinto, BHP, Roy Hill, Canadian National, Union Pacific, and we hope we can share more of these exciting developments in the future. With that, I will relinquish control of this webinar to Byron, so he can talk to us about smaller electrified vehicles, but equally just as important. Byron, take it away.
Thank you, Sofiane. Good day to everybody. Hopefully everybody's up and still paying attention, because that's a good segue of our smaller rail car movers. Next slide, please, Sofiane. So the way Shuttle Wagon has started, we're over 50 years old. We started in the Tier 4 diesel units. We transitioned in the past couple of years to lithium ion. These units, they're run because of the push of the West Coast. We see the value in growing that market, and we want to pursue it more. What does the future hold? Sofiane, he mentioned hydrogen, biodiesel, and that is something we are looking at. Next slide, please. So this is a unit that is built. It is sitting in our factory in Kansas City. It has a 10-year lifespan on the batteries. We are seeing that the fuel savings is 118%. That is very significant. It's a cost-saving measure, especially on the coast where the ports are mainly located. The price of diesel is going up. So that is a very big cost savings. The maintenance cost is 74%. So you can imagine the filters, the lubes, everything of that. Our electrics are a little bit different than the locomotives. We do have transmission in it, so there is a slight maintenance on the transmission, but we are looking at options to eliminate that as well and to be a pure electric unit. The batteries are lithium ion, fast charging capability. Each pack is 23 kilowatts. There's two options currently. There's a 6-pack and a 10-pack configuration. Along with that, we do regenerative braking. And as you can see with the rubber tires, the rail wheels are just guides. So those that are not familiar with shuttle wagon units, we do not borrow weight. We are similar to a locomotive hookup. And the tire wear is very minimal. Next slide, please. These are the two charging systems. So we have a single phase 240 amp 80 volt. That is, I guess you could consider a trickle charge. 20 to 90% charge rate is 8 to 10 hours. Those are more of a backup. There's the upgrade to a level 3. You can see the photo on the far right of the photo. That is the actual electric station. And in the smaller photo with the stand is the actual charge cable. You can run 2 dispensers at a time. You cannot charge at the same time, but it gives you almost 1,200 foot of difference to be able to do the opportunity charge. With a fast charger, it's a 20 to 90% charge time is 2 to 4 hours, and you can also opportunity charge during your operation. Our engineering department will be happy to work with you on your operation, see how maybe you need a 15-minute longer break or a little 15-minute interval where you can top up to finish up your operation or your day. We do have applications where we're running 6 units in California, and we've worked with them on changing or adjusting their schedules to be able to fit the time to be able to move the rail cars as needed. Some applications do get regenerative braking back, so they'll get up to 50% so they can move that last string of few cars. The current model will move up to about 30 loaded rail car movers on a flat straight track. So we would definitely recommend doing a track survey to come out and make sure that this unit will fit, and work with your port areas to make sure that one is you understand that there is a instant 100% tractive effort. Once you push go, it's not a diesel engine. So there is a little learning curve whenever you go to electric. Next slide. And I will hand it off to the next one. Thank you.
Well, good day, everybody. My name is Greg Reese. I'm the North American Business Manager for Wabtec Maritime Electrification Products, including ferry charging systems, and the topic that I'm going to discuss right now, shore power systems. I've been with Wabtec for nearly 9 years. I was an engineer at General Motors before that, and spent considerable time in the military and aerospace sectors before that. As noted today, I'm going to briefly discuss shore power, known as cold ironing, and along with some of the rationales with doing it, some of the challenges, and I'll briefly review some of the deployed units that we have in service at this time. Okay, we're off to the next slide. Good. So as noted on the slide, there are the obvious reasons for electrification and decarboning. The soot, the noise, the smell, all those things that you don't want your cruise ship doing while it's in berth. But there are other factors too, including, as you see, some of the international accords and agreements. And as a result, there are commercial and financial incentives in place to increase the adoption of shore power and decarbonizing. Soon operators will have to pay for their carbon credits and their emissions, and as a result, the operators in cruise lines and such are approaching the ports and asking for shore power, so in making sure that it's available to them wherever they go. Next slide, please. This is a quick look at the key components of a shore power system. On the left, you have a cargo vessel, and on the right, a cruise ship. Most everything is pretty common. Item 1 is your grid power, 2 is your transformer station, 3 is your junction box, and then 5 is your connection to the grid on the ship. Now, item 4 is the variance. That's your cable management system. Typically on a cargo vessel, it's housed in a container in a box on top and drops the cables down. In a cruise vessel, it can be a stationary or a mobile system that handles the cable, as we call it, the cable management system, CMS. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have to face because the docks are very busy. There's a lot of things on them, as you'll see shortly. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, one of the challenges is the docks. They are very inconsistent. I've been to many, many docks, and first of all, they tend to be very cluttered, have a lot of gear on them that you can't move. And the one thing that we found that's very consistent is inconsistency. They're all built independently. They're all different terrains, different travels. Just each one is unique. And part of the problem, part of the challenge and the opportunity is to make a system that, or tailor a system that can adapt to or be adapted to any of these berth challenges. Next slide, please. This chart gives you an idea of the power consumption of different classes of vessels. Obviously, being a floating city, a cruise vessel consumes the most power by far. And that brings into light one of the first things and challenges that does need to be considered early on is equating the power of the system requires to what's available on the grid. A lot of times grid modifications have to be implemented. Sometimes additional power substations have to be created and things like that. So these demand a lot of power sometimes, and you have to make sure that that's done. Typically, most of the ports I've worked with are doing a feasibility study with the electric company to really at the front end of their project to make sure they have all that in place. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is an example of a shore power system that we have deployed in Hamburg, Germany. I call it our most complete system because it's a mobile cable management system, and it doesn't have a junction box. It has an energy chain, which is it's a costly feature, but this dock doubles as a road during the day, and these plates have to handle 90 tons, and it can be operated by one person. I've done it. It's pretty cool. With the remote control, you can just drive it up and down the dock. So I'm giving you kind of high-level overviews because there's a lot of different kinds of equipment. And here's some more detail about the one in Hamburg. And one thing to keep in mind, you'll notice the IEEE notification on this slide here. Well, actually, I don't see it at this point, but these systems are all designed to IEEE 80005, which is a standard that's been adopted for shore power. And basically that allows any cruise ship that adheres to the standard, is designed to the standard, to power up at any dock that is also to the standard. Okay, next slide, please. And here's a little look inside the energy chain, just because it's kind of impressive. It was quite an undertaking, a lot of civil works and construction to install that. But it's a very elegant solution, but certainly not the most cost effective. Next slide, please. This is an example of the junction box connects the cable management system to the grid via the transformer station. They can be above ground, underground in a pit, or even mounted vertically. Next, please. This is a system similar to Hamburg, but you can see without the energy chain, bottom left hand, you can see the cables coming out of the vehicle. And here, in this application in Kiel, Germany, they just lay right on the deck. Next, please. And in this, in Rostock, instead of laying them on the deck or building an energy chain, they created a trough with removable lids that it takes some time in a forklift, but it definitely keeps the aesthetics in place for the terminal. Next, please. And just another similar in China where they just lay the cables on the deck. Next, please. And this is an interesting design, a variation. We basically needed a lot of reach due to tidal influences and such. And so we basically created a version with a big long mast. Again, the application drives the design. Almost every berth is going to need something a little bit different than any other. Next, please. And this is a simpler solution when called for. Basically, it's a pedestal crane that just drops the cables out. Obviously, it's much more cost effective than some of the shore power systems I just showed you, but obviously the aesthetics aren't there either. Next. And this is a variation on the theme, kind of marrying together the articulating arms that are on the mobile units to a pedestal crane. Next, please. This is a movable socket that allows this is primarily for cargo, but it can be for anything. The cable reel on the top can traverse left to right, and it can account for hatching consistencies because between vessel to vessel, or at least type, there are always going to be variances. Next, please. Here's a very simple unit that can be forklifted around a dock and deposited anywhere that you have a junction box, and then you can marry it right up to the ship. And then I'm going to finish off quickly overviewing some of the short connect container vessel systems. Again, we have these are done to IEEE. Here you can see it on the screen. Basically, that white box is the dedicated box for the system. And what's in the box is a cable reel system that feeds the cable out and monitors the tension to manage tidal changes and any other dynamic forces. And here's a real world example of one. Next slide, please. One more. Thank you. Here's a real world example of one. And this is just kind of an example of many that we deployed out in the field. And on that note, I'll go ahead and close. I just wanted to give a brief overview so you could see what the equipment looks like and how it fits into the port. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I pass it on to the next.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, folks. My name is Andrew Parker. I'm the Senior Director, Rail Solutions Architect for the Digital Intelligence Group here at Wabtec. And I'm pleased to present some of our solutions that we have out in the field today. It's known as Rail Connect. That's the umbrella name for multiple products that cover railroads in terms of short lines, class ones, terminals, regional railroads, etc. So we'll jump in. Sue, if you could move this forward a slide. So essentially, our mission is to improve the global quality of life by accelerating the movement of both freight as well as commuters in the most safe, efficient, and sustainable way. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, Rail Connect is a suite of products that handle the day-to-day operations for railroads of all sizes and complexities. We have some instances where we manage single yards up to railroads that can be thousands of miles or kilometers long. So the main purpose behind it is to provide visibility, tracking and tracing of rail cars, as well as the inventory within the rail cars. So we do complete waybill management. It's a tool that is supposed to simplify, breaks down the immense amount of data that can be flowing around the rail industry, and try to make it put it into easy to manage applications. We also manage the revenue side of things. So we try to ensure that every car moved has an invoice tied to it. So and again, it's a set of turnkey products that are very closely integrated for simplicity and ease of use. And yes, please go ahead and move to the next slide, Sue. As I mentioned, the suite of umbrella products is broken down into equipment management, revenue management, operations management, maintenance, and then comms or EDI, which is the tool by which all of these are integrated. So we'll start off in equipment management services. We have both the car hire payables as well as a car hire receivables application, and we also do managed services too. And then we have an application that is called RVP, Rail Connect Visibility and Planning Plus, and that allows for shippers to request empty car ordering from their partner railroads. In the revenue stream, we have a product called Rate Contract Management. Essentially, that's a rate negotiation tool between the shippers, the railroads, and all of the transportation partners within a given route or a given waybill. We manage both the freight as well as junction settlement revenue for ISS roads or junction settlement roads. We also manage all of the IC or switch charges, incidental charges or switch charges for railroads. And that can be, switching, could be cleaning, turning, you name it, whatever services the shippers are requesting. We handle managed demurrage and storage calculations for fleet that is either placed at customers or cars that are seasonal use or surplus inventory. Then we also do non-transportation charge management, equipment renting, track rental, etc. And then again, similar to car hire, we also have a revenue management managed services where we process the revenue for on behalf of our customers. Within the TMS operation space, our applications have full waybill management cycles, so from load to empty, empty to load, all aspects of the waybill management. There's a what we call a CATS module, a car and train scheduling. So you can either just run simple, straightforward trains on a non-scheduled basis, or you can apply scheduling to them, as well as a service planner module. So based on customer requests, customer availability, plant management, etc. We also have a very robust yard management component to the TMS module. So just classification, pickling, switching, whatever your flavor is, whatever term you use to organize and manage your yards, streamline your throughput, and get cars moving as much as possible. Then there's also an M crew, a mobile crew application too. This is not just a suite of desktop applications. This is also a mobile software version that allows reporting from out in the field in real time or near real time. Under the maintenance umbrella, we have car repair billing and maintenance management services. So not just managing the repairs of cars, but also trying to diagnose when problems will arise, as well as your scheduled timely maintenance. We have equipment health services, and then EY Mobile, Express Yard Mobile. Again, it's a mobile version of the CRB, the car repair billing application. So you don't have to be in an office at a desk somewhere. You can literally pull up your inventory directly on your mobile devices and apply all of your repair information to that. All of this is tied together through our comms module, otherwise known as also just basic EDI. But we handle multiple different versions, both standard EDI, X12, Train 2, and then but we also manage our interchange of data via XML, JSON, CSV, T94, S292s formats. We handle multiple communication methods, MQ, FTP, SFTP, etc. We also have an eBall, an electronic bill of lading package that allows shippers to bill rail cars directly through our application and leading to a seamless integration with the transportation management systems. We have a REN interface which feeds into our rate contract management system. And then all of this is also covered under our advanced analytics business intelligence tool that allows you to slice and dice all of the information, all of the data that comes into or flows out of any one of our applications to do your trends, analysis, compares, etc. So next slide, please. Just a couple of numbers here. Currently we have 520 instances of our RailConnect applications. Those are running again on class 1s, 2s, 3s, regional railroads, terminals, large shipper operations, different sizes and complexities of operations, lots of mainline, lots of yard track, etc. We exchange about 60 billion bytes of EDI data annually. We also interchange have interchange points with 1,484 points where we interchange with class 1s. 96% of the North American fleet gets moved through the Rail Connect products. About 9 million carloads are handled, aggregated from all of our customers. We have, this actually is a little bit of an old number. It just recently got updated. We're now up to about 320 railroads that are using MCrew. And that number is growing literally almost every day, every week. We've got about 4,000 users, all reporting events out in the field directly into our applications. There's about 6,200 plus users of our TMS and RMS, which are the core applications. And then we've got about 3,300 different companies that are using RCI or RVP, which equates to about 9,000 total users there. So there's a lot of daily interaction happening with our applications, with our products every day to ensure that again, freight and commuters are moved safely, efficiently, and very sustainably. And with that, I believe that's my presentation. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Todd.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Good day, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to come to you today and talk about our next gen TOS. So I've been with Wabtec 4 years. Prior to Wabtec, I was at BNSF for 14 years, working with intermodal and automotive. So come into this role, managing this product, good understanding of the background of intermodal automotive. As you go to the next slide, we'll kind of talk through how the process and technologies may change over time. But if you look at the screen here, obviously operations really don't change much across the board for intermodal. You're going to have your yard operations, your gate operations, and your ramp operations. We know processes do change, and with that, technology changes too. And what we've been seeing out there is that we have legacy technology that's decades old. And as we go to the next slide, we'll walk through and show you how we're changing this and how we're trying to modernize this tool. So looking at next gen TOS and the future where we're going with this tool, this is a web-based system, and looking at the technology and the architecture behind it, it's microservices versus a monolithic technology, where in the past you may have a single threaded technology, single threaded code base. Here with web-based, it's simple, you can navigate, it's multi-tenancy, so instead of logging into various instances, you can change your terminal directly through web app. It is accessible through laptops, tablets, any of the mobile devices. We've modernized the cloud-based technology to make it easier to work with. You'll see that shortly in the architecture as well. Load planning has become easier. So we have a drag and drop functionality, and we'll walk through that a little bit as well. And then going through and looking at additional features you can see on the screen, map-based interactions. This gives us a lot of flexibility for what we can do in the future. And we'll talk about kind of where we're going with all this in the next few slides. So looking at the next slide, we'll walk through some key features of next gen TOS. And as we modernize this tool, you can see across the board, we have three types of sections out here that cover quite a broad base of tools that we have. So looking at work order and equipment management, this is really tied to how do you manage your terminal? How do you add equipment? How do you monitor equipment? If you have operators in a hostler or crane operator, and you can see in the next section we have that as well. How do you manage that resource? How do you look at it from a visibility perspective and be able to monitor? So through this tool, you can actually monitor in real time what that operator is doing as well. Through this, you have work order management, allows you to manage at the task level. It even goes into the next section for hostlers and cranes. So they also have in the VMU, they have a web-based tool very similar to desktop. It's shrunk down to fit into VMU. You can see here also, as we talked about in the previous slide, we have dark and light themes. So you can see on the left side, we have a light theme, and then the next few slides over on the two sections are dark. So this allows you to change that feature on the VMU so you can see it better. If you're working during the day and you have some light issues, or even at night, you need a bit of visibility. The white screen may be too bright, you can do the dark theme, makes it easier to see. So with the operators, they can come out here and they can see their work orders on the list. They also see on the map where they're located and also where that unit's supposed to be. based on the work order, and then they can navigate to that position and then unhitch and be able to record the work order, which will update the desktop version as well in the database. On the far right, you will see a section for dynamic load planning. This really allows us to look at the future of how we're going to do this tool. And shortly, we'll talk about kind of our next steps. But you can see here at a high level, we have a map. We also have at the bottom of that screen, we have a load sheet. We also have a rail car view. So in this tool, you can do a simple drag and drop of your load sheet to the rail cars and do a quick planning. You can also see where those units are at in the mapping. And this mapping tool gives us future possibilities of how we use that in many different ways. So again, looking at this overall, it's web-based, it's simple. You can navigate through the tool. And as you go to the next slide, we'll see how it ties into the architecture. And we really tried to make this it where it's a simple architecture, it's cloud-based. It's easy to access through desktop or even a mobile application like I mentioned before. It's highly available and scalable, even modular and portable and sustainable. And looking at this and how it's built and tying in external systems, and also it really gives you the opportunity to plug and play in a sense of other applications you want to tie into this. As you build onto this, we've made the architecture easy to where if you want to either take it as it is, or you want to start working on it and add additional features, then we can make that easy as well. Looking at the next slide, kind of next steps and how we want to take this tool, whether it's where we are currently or talking to you further about our next steps. So right now we are looking at a phase 1 approach with one of our key customers, and we're doing a conventional terminal facility that we're going to get set up in third quarter this year. And with them, we're going to go the next step as well and do a medium-sized yard and also do wide span crane facilities as well. So eventually do majority of the facilities. And this gives us an opportunity to even talk to you further about opportunities of how this may fit with you. And if there's an interest here, then we can take the next step and talk to you about any opportunity you may see with this. If you want to have a deeper dive in technology, we can get our experts involved in this as well. We can walk through requirements, walk through kind of what you're looking for from deliverables, and just really take some time to understand what your needs are. But with that, that kind of ends our next gen toss, but it definitely gives an opportunity for you to look and see what we're doing here and our next gen approach and how to modernize intermodal. Thank you for your time. Sufane?
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate that. With that, we get the chance to move to the very last presentation of today, and this is going to be about Port Optimizer. If you have a phone or you watch TV, you probably heard recently about supply chain, and you have heard that the recent global events really have placed a major spotlight on the critical role that the supply chain plays today in a healthy globalization. We hear on a daily basis records being set of larger ships that have docked in our ports throughout the globe. We've seen record TEUs on a monthly basis. These are good numbers, but they also bring a lot of complexities around the port, the terminals, and just the ecosystem of the port in general. Some of the problems we're seeing is congestion. We see some inefficiencies. So all of this happens in a time where consumers, our demand and the expectations for delivery of goods really come at all-time high. When we talk about the supply chain, our team has been developing and working on the Port Optimizer for quite some time, and really get to understand the complexities at the port and the demands on the supply chain. This is why we developed and successfully deployed the Port Optimizer. It's an essential tool for ports and the ecosystem that it serves. Whether you're a landlord port or an operating port, a beneficial cargo owner, a trucker, a shipper, a railroad operator, the tool offers analytics that enables you to reduce cargo congestion, enhance your supply chain performance, predictability, and manage these exceptions, the cargo exceptions that require multiple phone calls, fax inquiries, and emails. And therefore, this really increases your competitiveness at the end of the day. The tool ingests data from hundreds of different and disparate data sources into one single pane of glass to allow the port community system and its stakeholders to access these insightful, reliable, critical information to enable faster response in a dynamic conditions. So Port Optimizer provides real-time vessel and container status, provides terminal and port performance dashboard, empty container management, and a 6-month forecast. The major foundation of the Port Optimizer remains its data, and that is the data coming from hundreds of data feed that could be coming from cargo lanes, from terminal operators, port operators, could be from the Port Authority itself. You see it from the customer and board protection, and then really taking all that data, ingesting it, and providing it in a modern UI and API connections for the ports and the customers and the user that already have a port community system or have a system that they're using on a daily basis. They don't have to add another system. Therefore, we use APIs to provide that capability. The Port Optimizer was born through a successful collaboration with the Port of LA in 2016, with a mission to increase efficiency and deeper line of sight into the booking and the demand from the Far West and Far East. The initial outcome include advanced visibility for up to 121 days, 3 weeks, I'm sorry. So you get the visibility of the current week, the following week, and the week after, and be able to access data faster and more accurately. Today, the tool is used by 1,000 of users and covers a wide variety of functions from 12 terminals, 15 ocean carriers, CBP, and over 1,100 truck operators. Wabtec built on this successful collaboration to deploy the Port Optimizer in Europe at the Port of Gothenburg today in Sweden. We're serving 11,000 ships per year, 140 destinations worldwide. So Gothenburg use case uses and builds on the same foundation as the foundation of the Port of LA, with more of a focus of rail and inland terminal efficiency. When we look at the roadmap and the various areas where Port Optimizer is playing today, we start with the cargo visibility. That, again, it sets that foundation, aggregating the data. And then when we go into the cargo optimization, this is when we actually start taking the data into account, use AI, and be able to provide insights not only about the asset and the container itself, but really about the movement and the volume of the flow of the cargo throughout the ecosystem, whether it's a port authority, whether with the BCO ecosystem, or at the port terminal level. And last but not least, we start using those aggregate data sources to provide insights about the green and about solutions that allow our operators, whether it's a trucker, rail provider, or port authorities, to use smarts about how can we move cargo in the most ecologically friendly way. So when we talk about the track and tracing being the foundation, again, this is the real-time container tracking from marine to terminal. It would involve both import and export visibility, using container-specific details as a unique identifier with various features and highlights such as ETAs and holds and availability to allow you to avoid detention demurrage, for example. The cargo optimization goes into the higher level, macro level of the port and the terminal, and get to see dashboards that are designed to provide intelligence at the port level. It enables the port to make, again, these decisions using real-time cargo data, and avoids the nitty-gritty details about working through Excel and emails to find multiple transportation metrics. Last but not least, we provide actionable KPIs and BI that are very specific to each customer and user function to cater to their needs on a daily basis. Port Optimizer is able to interface with some of the hardware that we have discussed today, with terminal operators, with the Port Authority and terminals, based on equipment like the shore power that we discussed today with Greg. And it offers cleaner, greener module that enables the port community system to use big data to establish green cargo movement while providing analytics and environmental impact of cargo moves. Again, we get to understand a little bit more about the way each cargo is moving and assign an eco score, if you will, to make us smart about how we can reroute our cargo in a very efficient and green manner. This really kind of highlights the overall vision and the mission of the Port Optimizer, starting from a very cargo asset specific, going into the cargo optimization, and really working towards the environment protection there. With that, I really want to thank you. This kind of closes the presentation for Port Optimizer, also closes the presentation that we have for you today. I will relinquish control of this presentation to Paula, and thank you again for attending. Paula, take it away.
Thank you, Sufyan, and to all of our presenters. Very much appreciate the presentation, very interesting, and thanks to Andrew, Byron, Greg, and Todd as well. I hope all of our attendees feel like you gained some helpful insights. If there are any questions, please feel free to submit them to the questions box. I do see we do have a question, so I'll go ahead and read that off. Are you able to measure emission, the amount of carbon dioxide as well? Sufyan or anybody on the panel?
So if we're talking about the container today, we are using some AI and algorithms and in the process of deploying a cargo routing modeling that shows the options that we have to ship a container. Let's say if we want to ship it from Shanghai all the way to the Port of LA, we can show the various options. The shortest route, maybe the longest route, but the most eco-friendly route. Also, we show the economic impacts on those options, and we let the user decide. So using some assumptions about the actual distance and the asset we're using, whether it's going to be a truck mode, whether it's going to be rail or ship, we have the capability to estimate what would be the total emissions that are produced by moving a certain cargo.
Great, thank you. And we also had a question that I can answer. Somebody asked if we can share the slides after the session. We will be posting the recording of this presentation to the AAPA website, and all will have access to the recording. So you will be able to see that. An additional question just came in. Much of the material today has been container focused. Can you provide more details about bulk material management?
Thank you for that question also. Yes, we have shown the Port Optimizer. Again, I'm assuming this is regarding the Port Optimizer. It's a use case for a container cargo. We're using similar technology for Ro-Ro and for Lo-Lo, where we can use a unique identifier such as the VIN number of a vehicle to identify a vehicle. When it comes to break bulk, it's a slightly different problem statement than tracking a single container. With that, we have launched several pilots, and we are looking for a real use case to use for break bulk, because again, the problem there is not necessarily tracking one container, but rather managing the flow of the break bulk, and finding out how you can store it, how you can deliver it, and you can meet that conveyor belt of a train to pick it up. So we're happy if you have further questions about the break bulk. We're happy to talk to you about it. We have seen several use cases that could use some of the improvements, and we'll be happy to work that too.
Great, thanks, Sufyan. Don't go anywhere because there's another question about the Port Optimizer. Did you apply Port Optimizer in Port of LA with the terminal operator or the Port Authority?
Thank you for that. Today we deployed the Port Optimizer at the Port of LA. So we're working with our partner as the Port Authority through the City of LA, and the Port of LA is free and using the service to the users, whether it's the cargo owners, whether it's the rail providers and the trucker community. Again, this is a free service provided by the port for the community, and we're working with the port to provide that service.
Okay. Can diesel locomotives be retrofitted with the electric battery technology? If so, what is the lead time to retrofit versus a new build?
This is probably a bigger move. If we ask the question, can you retrofit a traditional engine to a more efficient Tier 4 engine? Probably the answer is a lot quicker, because you could do that through a modernization. But to go from a diesel electric to a pure 100% battery electric is a much bigger task, because now you have to remove pretty much all the engine compartments and then apply the 20,000 cells of battery. So this is a much better task that's not being done today, but it's definitely in the vision. And I'm very happy to get you with the folks to work on that particular task, because this is something that a lot of the rail operators are asking for.
Great. I have a question about hydrogen locomotives. How far we are to actually seeing one in service?
From what we're seeing here, we haven't seen a locomotive in service yet, but there's testing involved with the hydrogen locomotive. Again, the focus has been at this stage on the modernization, and also on the flex drive with the 1 and 2 and 3 generation flex drives. The hydrogen at this stage remains in testing mode, so we haven't seen that in service. And I'm going to let the hydrogen folks provide a better insight about the timing to put it in production.
Great, thank you. Those were all great questions. Thank you to the audience for being so engaged and for submitting those. Those are all of the questions that I've seen. So with that, I'm going to steal the presentation rights from Sufyan and share my screen. And if you'll stick with me for just a couple of moments, as I alluded to at the beginning of the webinar, for those of you who have enjoyed this presentation, I think that you may enjoy some of AAPA's upcoming events that we have later this year. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hopefully, okay. Oops. So AAPA has an event next week called our Legislative Summit, Strong Port, Strong America. It's in Washington, D.C. For those of you who are interested in ports policy and what is going on with our nation's ports in D.C. And shaping policy, that's a wonderful event. I know it's not a lot of notice between now and then, but if you have the opportunity to participate in that event, we've got wonderful speakers lined up for that. And we also have a day where our port members and supply chain partners can go and visit your senators and local representatives on the Hill and have meetings to tell them what your thoughts are on what they can be doing to better help support our port industry in Washington. So that's a really great event taking place next week. We also have our Port Leadership Summit taking place April 18th to the 20th in Portland, Oregon. That's great for exploring the challenges facing port and supply chain leaders, learning new skills to move your team forward. Our Port Administration Management Conference, June 6th through 7th in San Pedro, California, is coming up. And that's a wonderful event. That's a new event that's combining some previous events we used to have some previous seminars that were separate. I think our finance seminar, our cruise seminar, our legal seminar used to be separate, and we're combining those events into be a larger event. So that's going to be, I think, a good event for those groups. Our Smartport seminar and expo, that's also an event that was previously several separate seminars that's going to be combined into one large technology event. So if you're interested in technology, security, facilities engineering, those used to be separate seminars and are going to be combined now into one large technology event, July 19th through the 21st in Boston, Massachusetts. Lovely time of year to be in Boston. Very much looking forward to that event. And then our annual convention and expo, which is kind of like our port industry homecoming event. Our largest event of the year will be taking place October 22nd to the 25th in Aurora, Colorado. And then our Latin American Congress of Ports, December 4th through the 6th in Barranquilla, Colombia, will be taking place. That's as Sufyan alluded to, he participated in that event last year in Santos. That's a wonderful event to participate in as well. So lots going on the with AAPA, lots of opportunities to connect and network throughout the year. As I mentioned, my name is Paula White, and I am our Senior Manager of Membership Growth. If you want an opportunity to network with our members and to present and to have opportunities to get visibility for your company, and if you're a member and you want to take more advantage and to get more engaged, please, I'm always happy to have a conversation with you regarding how you can do that. And with that, I will conclude our webinar. We're a couple minutes over. Thank you for sticking with us. Thanks again to our speakers from WabTech, Sufyan, Greg, Todd, Byron, and Andrew. And have a nice day, and hope to see you at an upcoming program soon. Take care.
Thank you all. Have a great day.